Welcome to the Be Nice Show with Sarah Be Nice, where she covers topics such as spirituality, investment, entrepreneurship, and personal performance. Her goal is to hopefully inspire you to reach your full potential while maintaining your equilibrium.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Be Nice Show. This is Sarah. So pleased to be back, and I've got an interesting topic and an expert on the topic. And today's topic, we're going to talk about the art of manifestation. And this is something I've been talking about with a few of my friends. And of course, I don't know about you listening, but some of us do struggle with this. And we thought, well, why not bring someone who can sort of share some tips, and we take it from there. His name is David Molyneux, and he's someone I look up to. He's a spiritual teacher. He is an all-round nice person. Hi, welcome to the show, David.
Well, thank you. That was a lovely introduction. Let's hope I can live up to that.
Well, you didn't know that, did you? Now you know that many of us look up to you, and I'm so pleased that you're here with us. Like, you honored the invitation, and happy to share with us, I hope.
Yes, pleasure. Yes.
So sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to say, please lead away.
Yeah, lead away. So
I will try to follow.
Probably 2 months ago, of course, I've seen you around for like a few years, but we never actually interacted like on a one-to-one, like on a certain level to a certain level, like we did like 2 years ago.
Yes.
When someone asked me if I knew the meaning of the Star of David. And this took me, like, I didn't want to wait for too long. And I spoke to a couple of people, and someone pointed at you and said, oh, well, you need to talk to David. He's the person who will help you with that. And ever since that conversation we had, like, I hardly remember any of the things you mentioned, but I remember it was quite deep. And I thought, oh, wow, I didn't know he was this knowledgeable, And so I thought, well, he's someone I'd like to talk to a bit more and explore different things. And obviously, two other people said that you should talk to David. And if you do, make sure you get the juicy stuff out of him, because he's not one to easily, share.
Impart the information.
Yes.
Oh, it's very interesting. Well, that's good. I like that, because it means I don't like to sort of impose my belief system on anyone else unless they ask for what my point of view on any issue is. But unless asked, I won't. Yes, I tend to stay silent.
Right. So just to go back from the Star of David, as looking back then, I've always looked at it as a symbol that points as above and so below. So to me, that's all I know about the Star of David. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or should we just get to our main topic? I know it's not the main topic today.
Yeah, I can happily give you my interpretation of the Star of David. And I think you're absolutely right. As far as I understand it, it's as above, so below. It's comprised of two triangles, of course. And so the two triangles merge together to create the star. But of course, the upper triangle is the upper worlds, I suppose you could say. And the lower triangle is the lower worlds, not yet the physical world, but the lower worlds of spiritual energy. And the point in the middle, the dead center, is the physical world. So it kind of represents those different energies, 6 energies, that together manifest the physical worlds and those spiritual worlds that we can reach potentially through our imagination or through our visualization or through our, what's the other word I was thinking of? Oh, it begins with an A and I've forgotten the word now. But regardless, it's really about how we can connect to those worlds, those invisible worlds, through our energetic spiritual work.
Mm.
And once you connect to each of those 6 energies in balance, then you create balance and harmony in your life, and then that's when life flows. life doesn't flow for most of us, probably not any of us. But that's the aspiration, really, isn't it? To get to a place where we can allow life to flow.
So that means that if, say, I have a Star of David on, or even if I don't, but I sort of have that concept in my mind, knowing that I'm trying every day to connect the above and below and sort of find the the center. Is that what? Is it more of having the consciousness of that, or does someone actually do something on a physical level to bring that flow into their lives?
You see, that's a great way. I like the way. That's a great way you frame that, because that at least, like, this is about, I don't know, 10 questions at least, right? Coming out of what you've just said. No, that's good. It's good. I mean, one of the questions that comes up is, what is that? Then what is consciousness? And which is probably very aligned to the topic of conversation, which is the art of manifestation. Yes. And that was the word I was thinking of, affirmation. So through affirmation and thinking about the Star of David, is that going to connect us to that world? Or through a conscious connection, or through a bit? The questions around that, I think the question that you're really posing with that is, how can we effectively use the Star of David within our lives, right? And there's so many answers. I don't know. I'm trying to think now which angle to focus that one on. But I think maybe the best way of going about this is, rather than talking about something ethereal or esoteric, which we can do intellectually, and it's not necessarily going to make any changes to our life. I mean, there's plenty of people who do affirmations and never see any change. And there's people who do affirmations and see lots of changes. So the question around that is, why is the one person who's doing affirmations creating manifestation, and the other person who's doing the same affirmation creating no manifestation? Yes. And I think a lot of that comes down to how we connect to the spiritual worlds, how we connect to energy, and which the Star of David represents. And I'm going to sort of jump across. Sorry, I left my phone on. I'm going to turn that to silent. I'm going to jump across to more of a kind of a yogi or a yoga perspective, because within the body there are recognized 3 channels of energy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's the Pina, the Pingala, and the Shunshuma. And these energy channels need to be energized to create this ability of mind over matter. So if you look at the Star of David, you've got two points on either side, which are the extremities, and then 2 points in the middle, right? So the 2 points on either side represent 2 different energies that are aligned, and a person needs to energize those to create an awakening and an opening of the central channel, which is, the modalities is called Kundalini energy, or the awakening of Kundalini, and so forth. That's represented by the 2 points which are in the middle of the Star of David. So without that, without being in the body, without taking your mind into the body, you can meditate and you can do affirmations, but nothing will change, because you haven't created the energization of the body that will create the manifestation.
Right. So you pretty much haven't turned on that engine. You haven't ignited that engine to actually bring those things into, to sort of bring them into what? Physical world?
Yes, because there's Einstein. I don't know if you know the famous story of Einstein.
Which one?
The scientist. Oh, the story. Yeah. So Yeah, so there's a story goes around where kids went to go and see Einstein, and they asked him, how can we be like you, this famous inventor, and create these famous theories that people will use and develop and create whatever they create for them. And he said to them, well, just read fairy tales. And you think, what's a crazy answer? I mean, this is the guy who came up with E equals MC squared and relativity theory and so forth. A lot of science which is still based on his work. And yet he tells kids to read fairy stories. Why? The reason is because of the power of the imagination. We don't recognize the power of the imagination. We don't recognize that the imagination is the manifestor. We don't recognize that, the physical world, scientifically proven now, is the illusion. And therefore, because physical reality is comprised of thought consciousness, we not yet grasp the idea that through thought consciousness we can control, physical reality. So therefore, we need a tool. We need our if we're not in the bodies, if we're in our heads all the time, and I know this as a Gemini, because Gemini is an air sign. So Geminis are definitely not in their head. If the body just goes off on its own, it does its own thing. It's not being
Directed.
managed, for want of a better word, to manifest.
Do you know what? When you talk about, I don't know if you know about the Einstein, the letter he wrote to his daughter towards his final days, and
Right. I don't know about it.
Okay,
No.
so there's this letter that was discovered. I think it's somewhere in Israel or something, but it was discovered after he transitioned. He wrote to his daughter saying that if he talked about love as the energy that fuels everything positive, and if there's one thing, and he wishes he knew this is the only one thing he would teach people or share with people, that if your focus is on love, everything else will come, because we are love and we're made of love. But it's so beautifully written, and how he explains it as an energy, the biggest force we have in this world. So when you talk about this, his fairy tale, and I'm thinking about love, and I'm thinking, okay, we probably might have cracked the code here.
Yeah, but it is an energy, and it reminds me of a Frankie Goes to Hollywood song. The Power of Love.
Yes.
It's in that song, but it is an energy, and it's an energy that we get distracted from,
Very
and
much.
we often don't allow ourselves to initially feel love for ourselves and then feel love for other people. But it's easy for us to sit here and talk about that intellectually. Very, very difficult for most of us, because it means living 24/7, second by second, really, doesn't it? Because as soon as you go into the head, you've really lost that connection.
But what if you need to go into the head to sort of remind yourself for a period of time to sort of create, because obviously at some point you have to create a habit, but in order to create the habit, you have to keep reminding yourself. And then hopefully after a few weeks, months or years, you find yourself that you don't have to live there in the mind. Now you have become that thing. You have become love. You live in this world of fairy tale. I don't know. I'm just.
No, I think that's a great point, because what you're saying really, and that's where consciousness comes into it now, isn't it? Because what you're saying is you've used your mind, and which you have to. So you have to go into the head, but then you've used your heart and your gut, which of course a lot of people now call the second brain, and then you've slowly then developed a change, a shift in your thoughts, words, or actions. And then that then modifies the consciousness. So when a situation or event transpires, you react differently because your consciousness then is different to how it was before when you first decided to change whatever it was you felt you needed to change.
Right. Going back to the affirmations, do you think when some of us do affirmations, we sort of miss out on these other things, the feeling of it, the fairy tale thinking, the bringing everything? Do you think we just, because I feel like myself included, I find it weird doing affirmations, although I have friends who swear by them and they go like, my life has changed because of affirmations, but I don't feel connected to them. And I think it's probably mostly in the head. Like I'm probably, I
think that's the thing, isn't it? You have to connect the affirmation to your being. You have to be it. So you have to be the affirmation. And those people, and I've met people like that who can do. I mean, I remember meeting somebody who was so connected, that they could more or less just ask for things, and those things came.
Like King Osho,
which is amazing. Really.
You had a King Osho. He used to literally sit there and he would get Bentleys, he would get things that just brought to him just by him thinking about things, and they were there like within, like in a space of minutes or hours.
Yeah, and of course that is absolutely possible, I believe. And well, I think the science proves it to some extent now. By the way, I'm a massive. I can't help it. I read New Scientist every week from cover to cover. I can't help myself, because I'm always New Scientist.
Where does one find that?
Oh, it's a magazine. It's a journal. It comes out every week, and they have some fascinating articles written by scientists on consciousness, on brain power, all kinds of different, interesting. I mean, genuinely, and it's not so highbrow that you can't read it if you were interested. It's fairly straightforward to read. Yeah, it comes out every Thursday, by the way. So that's because that person has been able to remove the blockages. We carry blockages,
right?
In our chakras, in our meridians, in our acupressure points. And I mean, if you've ever done any yoga, you can sort of breathe your way into these places. And you can feel a lot of it. It's interesting because we're talking about getting yourself into the body and getting yourself into manifestation. A lot of the muscles in the body, through trauma, through sadness, through any negative emotional feeling, can go into contraction. And when they're in contraction, then the fascia tightens, and then the energy that then would normally route its way through the meridians and the chakras, the energy can't flow anymore. So therefore, if the energy can't flow because we're holding on to, past traumas or sadness from the past, we won't be able to manifest as well.
Right.
Because the energy, that energy of receiving and giving cannot travel and cannot move throughout our energy systems. And I think that will change. I think we're starting to move more from, a biocellular. I mean, it's very interesting. You look at evolution, isn't it? Because if you look at evolution,
if that can happen on a cellular level, that say, obviously we do inherit cells from the previous generations. If they've experienced that sort of thing, the trauma or that thing within their cells, can that also affect the next generation? Like, can we inherit that? Because I'm thinking sometimes we may not even be able to remember that on that level of, okay, this happened to me, this is why I feel this way, or this is why I'm blocked. But is it possible that we carry that from on a cellular level from the previous?
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, I believe there is, a DNA component, or if you like, a spiritual DNA
Yeah.
component. But the only way that we can transform that is move into an electromagnetic consciousness, which is the removal of blockages, which is the allowance of that energy to flow through our various energy channels and create that transformation within. But I mean, when I say electromagnetic energy, of course, I'm talking about cosmic energies, which we're all influenced by, but also magnetic influences, which we're all influenced by, which are terrestrial, which are of the earth. So until we learn to manage those, and of course I'm an engineer, so I think to some extent, in respect to the technological parts of it, I have a bit of an advantage. So I understand power, I understand electromagnetic forces.
Yes.
I mean, that was all in my engineering apprenticeship. So I understand how voltage and current flow and all that kind of stuff works. I think it's probably a bit more difficult for somebody who doesn't have that technological background to kind of maybe understand it so much. But if you think about electricity and power, that really is a lot of the cause over everything else. So if you think about in the body, and if we're able to control energy, which is essentially electromagnetic, but that electromagnetic force is still only the carrier, through thought consciousness, we can influence that energy. We're then able to modify and change ourselves at a cellular level. But I say this with great caution, because it's easy again to talk about it. It's a lifetime of work.
I believe so.
To achieve this.
I believe so. When you talk about, obviously, you're from an engineering background, but say, for example, the little bit I know is from reading different spiritual magazines from different spiritual outlets, and I've come to understand that the body, or look at the body as, what did you call it? Is it a transformer from your point of view?
Yeah, it's an electromagnetic. In fact, I think even in medicine now they're starting to look at treating people in a different way. But yeah, it's an electromagnetic force. Right. Yeah.
So the one thing I've learned, or one of the things I've learned, is to sort of reconnect myself to Earth, to Mother Earth, or by going to the fields or somewhere in a park, take my shoes off, step on the ground, and sort of re-energize myself, or even going in the green. And I understand now why it feels so good to go in the park, because I don't know if you're aware of the frequencies. And this is a topic I love so much. And the trees have the same frequency as love and that sort of thing. So
yes,
I sort of get that from that point of view. And I hope maybe our listeners are able to find something that they can anchor themselves from away from the because not all of us are engineers, but to find a term that is easy for them to sort of use. It could be anything, could be a battery. Like, you look at yourself as a battery that's rechargeable, and how you can recharge that. But then again, going back to we're talking about blockages and yoga. You did mention yoga, and some people will say, I cannot do yoga. It's because, honestly, I've spoken to a few people who think yoga is for a certain type of people, shape of people. And some people think, oh, no, it's not for me. You have to be a certain size to do yoga.
Yeah.
Away from that, what else can someone do? Away from the grounding and the yoga.
Very, very good points. Very, very good points. Well, first of all, I'd like just to sort of pick up about the bit about walking in the park and connecting to the earth in that sense.
Right.
Of course, over the last 30, 40, 50 years, of course, we've all turned to wearing rubber-soled shoes, whether it's in whatever footwear it is. Of course, the old leather footwear used to allow us a connection to the earth. So we've all become insulated from the earth. So that energy, that negative energy, has got no way of draining away.
Yeah.
But I have a few suggestions if people want to try it. And I promise you, if you do this, you will feel energy tingle out of your feet. Okay. If you lie on the bed at night or any time of the day, and you lie there and you tap your feet together, if you can imagine that. So you're lying there, you're tapping your feet together, and you're breathing into the belly button or the diaphragm. Do that for 10 minutes. You will feel a discharge of energy. Oh. Now, if you do that at night, for example, before you go to sleep, because your mind is in turmoil, you're thinking about this, you're thinking about that, you're trying to understand why somebody at work said something not very nice to you, or you're thinking about the next day and it's challenging. And so, consequently, all the typical things that most people go through at night before they go to sleep. If you were to say, okay, I'm going to just lie here and for the next, however long I can sustain it, but no more than, say, 10 minutes, I'm just going to tap my feet together. What is happening is that you're creating a flow.
Right.
And the head is fire energy. And so when the head gets into itself and starts to rustle along with all these different thoughts and ideas, it's creating more fire. And you want to cool that fire down. The stomach is water energy.
Okay.
So by tapping the feet together, what you're doing is you are heating up the water energy in the stomach. As we know, water expands when it's heated.
Yes.
Or rises when it becomes steam. It then goes up to the head. It cools the head down. And it cools the fire energy down.
Right.
And then you create this flow of energy between the stomach or the second brain and the head brain. And that then this creates a potentially a discharge of energy that really isn't needed, and is creating all these circular thoughts, which you're just, if you don't do anything like that and don't discharge energy, you're just creating more fire energy, and therefore you end up having a really bad night's sleep.
This is so beautifully put, because I've always looked at the stomach and the head from a different point of view. Obviously, I understand the stomach is the center of the nervous system and it sends messages to the head and everything, but I've never seen it from a point of view of fire and water and how these two sort of can exchange energies and how they can sort of balance them each other out. So, yeah, I'm learning quite a few things here as it is.
Try it. You know what? It's a great feeling, because if you've done it for, say, 5 or 10 minutes and then you stop, you feel the bottom of your feet tingle like crazy.
Wow.
And you really feel it tingling. It's all the energy being discharged. Because energy, going back to the park scenario and the the rubber shoe thing, that energy's got nowhere to go. You just become a battery of energy that's not being discharged, both positive and negative energy.
Yeah.
So you really want to try and find a coping mechanism of, before you go to sleep at night, sort of discharging that energy. And there's many other tools to do that. I'm just giving you a physical one. I mean, you can meditate, you can go through the day, you can allow yourself the feeling of forgiving an individual or forgiving yourself if you've done something wrong by somebody else. But what I'm really giving you here is something a bit more physically practical.
Right.
You can still do all the other things that you might do, but it's a really good way of, as I say, discharging that energy. I mean, I don't know if you've come across these stores now, but there are stores where you can buy a sheet that goes under the mattress or goes on under the sheet, at least, with an earth earth wire and you plug it into an electrical socket and it's supposed to earth you. I've never tried one. It probably does the same thing.
Okay, that's
But
interesting.
you can buy them online. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm also wondering, do you reckon that's what breath does? That when we do like deep breathing in and out,
It's really important, deep breath work, because breath work is, if once you become adept at it, it moves energy around the body, and through breath work you can find your blockages. Most people in the West are blocked in their first and second chakras.
Okay.
And in the first and second chakras, which is basically, the first chakra, for those who are not quite, fey with chakras, there are a series of 7 energy centers from the top of the head to the base of the spine. So the first chakra is at the base of the spine, around the perineum, and the second chakra is a couple of inches below the belly button. And so what happens when the body tighten up the diaphragm, it tightens up. So, but these are the important chakras because they are, going back to the topic of the conversation, they are the manifestation chakras.
Okay.
As well. And if you don't have energy flowing through these chakras, again, it's very, very difficult to manifest. So breath work is very good. And another exercise that your listeners might want to try, and again, very simple if they don't like yoga or they're not interested in yoga, lots of good reasons why a person might not want to do yoga. A very good one is to breathe in and out from the diaphragm or from the belly button. Now, of course, you can't physically breathe in and out through the belly button, but we're talking about breath work here.
Yeah.
And then if you want to take that a step further, you can sit there and then you can use the tips of your fingers and push in and out just either side of the belly button.
Okay.
And if you just keep pushing in and out like that, what happens is you keep doing it, and my voice sounds a bit strange right now because I'm doing it. You keep doing it, and what this does is it releases a lot of contraction around the diaphragm.
I can already feel that.
Yeah, it releases a lot of contraction around the diaphragm. What then happens is the organs of the body, the kidneys, the liver, the heart, the lungs, and so forth, they also start to relax. And then they release a lot of, again, negative energies. And then by releasing those energies, which are blockages, then, again, you can find that energy starts to flow. And I really recommend, for a person sitting at a computer all day, if you can give yourself every hour, it might look a bit strange to your co-workers if you're sitting in an open plan office. You might want to explain what you're doing. But if you sit there and you push your diaphragm in and out with your fingertips, at the same time try to breathe or visualize breathing from the belly button. Again, that breath work and that physical work of using your fingers against the two sides of the belly button will relax you, and again take a lot of that fire energy out of the head, so you can start to think a bit more clearly, and also your energy is back in the body again, so you can start to manifest and start to flow a bit more easily.
Right. So why do you think, or why did you say that most people in the West are blocked in the first and second chakra? Is it because they sit a lot? They don't do a lot of exercise?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's emotional as well. There is, we're not as... I've got to be careful what I say here, haven't I?
Very.
We're a society that has in the past, I suppose, tended to suppress our desire or suppress our emotions in a lot of maybe not desire so much, but certainly feelings and emotions, and they tend to, reside in the sort of first and second chakras, really. And there's, I mean, if anybody wanted to Google, you could simply Google first, second chakra blockages, and they'd find a whole host of information there about I mean, I don't want to get people hung up on these things, because one of the key points about spiritual work is to transform. And I think sometimes the danger is when you say, "Oh, go to these places," and the person goes, "Oh, well, that's why I'm like that," and suddenly they create a whole new reason for victimizing themselves.
Oh, yes.
And that's really not the point.
And to justify why they are doing the things that they're doing. Now I've got a reason why I'm like this. It's not me. It's this thing.
It's this thing, yeah. So you just got to be very careful with that.
I knew it. So the other thing I'm thinking about is food. Like, is there some foods you reckon there's some foods that can assist in the process of being more energized and hence like creating more energy within the body?
I think that's an individual thing. I've really not been very good at doing this.
Right.
But technique that somebody told me years ago was to find out for yourself whether your body likes it or not. And that takes a moment to pause and then just hold, that item, say it's an apple, close to your stomach, and just seeing if you what reaction you get. I think most people,
that's interesting,
probably not sensitive to do that. Yeah, I'm not sensitive enough. I haven't developed that sensitivity yet to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And with regard to, I would say the energy work is because one of the things about the right diet and the right food and so on is, it's not going to do a great deal if you're full of toxic feelings and emotions. It's helpful, but I think that's the first area to try to address, really. But it's very difficult. It's not an easy thing to address. But with simple breath work, I would say that was the right way to go, and then maybe through the breath work, then you can discover for yourself what works for you in terms of the foods that you should be eating and so forth. I think it's again it's one of the greatest healers is the three things that joy, happiness, and acceptance, isn't it? I mean, if you can get to a place where something happens to you and you can either accept it and be happy about it, or you be joyful about it, then you've really done the work, because you're in that state of manifestation.
Yeah.
If somebody now pushes you out of the way as you get onto the tube, how do you react to it? I never hit those 3 levels. That's an aspiration.
Oh, well.
If I could just get to acceptance, I'd be very happy. But
no, I threw everything out of the window. I'm like, what did you just do? How dare you? Why didn't you hold that door for me?
But then that's the key, isn't it? Because if you can only really accept something like that,
yes,
if you can understand that, like Einstein, kind of postulated, the physical world is an illusion.
It is.
Right, then you can accept it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of that zooming in and out, isn't it? That's actually going between the head and the body, isn't it? Really, so that's going that again. That's the art of manifestation. If I'm in the head, am I in the body? What's reacting right now? Is my mind reacting? Is my body reacting? And but most of us are not in that place where we live so presently that we can have that conversation in ourselves at that time.
Yeah. And so as we begin to wind down, I'm thinking we talked about forgiveness, which is very, very something we all probably need to do every day. And I'm thinking, how often should someone do that? Some people talk about doing it on a daily basis, like every evening, to think about the things or people, things you need to forgive yourself of and the people you need to forgive. And others wait until maybe a certain time of the year and they'll sit down and go like, this is it. I need forgiveness from ABCD. And other people do it maybe on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
What do you think would be the good balance? Obviously, everyone will have to find like what works for them. But what do you reckon would be the good balance to process to do that process of forgiveness?
I have a story actually that might illustrate this.
I love your stories.
I remember a few years ago, I went with a friend to Los Angeles, and we were traveling from Los Angeles to San Diego, and there was a healer that I knew of. And I said to her, let's go and see this healer. She's like, and I can't remember the name of the healing now, but it's a type of healing she developed. And she lived on a ranch, and in California, between Los Angeles and San Diego. Right. So I had in my head all these visions of how wonderful this ranch would look, mainly influenced by, TV shows and films, I should think.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to this ranch, and it was a place you wouldn't want to stay. It was full of all these rundown buildings and bunk houses.
Oh.
The woman came out, and she had a lot of interest in Native American Indians and their healing techniques. She had dirty fingernails. And my friend, she said, there's no way I'm having a session with this woman. And she appeared mad, and she was taking us round the ranch and showing us different Indian markings and so on. So I thought, well, I've come all this way. I'm going to
might
have
as well
a healing session, yeah. So I went in and went on to her. She had these, I think it was a type of massage bed or whatever. And I got into the room, and suddenly in this room, she changed. She became a different person.
Okay.
And she almost like she read me. And she said, look out the window there, David. And she had all these horses in a paddock, I suppose you'd call it. And she said, it's very interesting. I watch my horses. And at night, what they do is they just shake. They just shake everything off. Every experience, every difficult moment that they've had during the day, they just shake it off, and then they can sleep. And that never left me. And I think, so it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think the key to staying physically and emotionally healthy as far as one can, because obviously there's lots of difficult situations that people have to go through, is that forgiveness, at the end of the day, I think forgiveness and a bigger part of taking stock of your life at the end of the day is key to that. And I grew up with that. I grew up a Catholic, and so, we'd end up sitting or kneeling at the end of the bed every night and doing the Lord's Prayer. It's the same thing. It's a kind of a letting go.
Yeah.
It's a shaking off, in a way. Shaking off of the energy of the day so that you can go to sleep refreshed and revigorated for the next day, hopefully with a clearer conscious as you can possibly get. And I think that I notice the difference. If I go to bed and I do the toe tapping, and
something I'm going to try tonight,
forgiveness work,
yes,
I wake up so much fresher, so much more energized than if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So that's my understanding of.
I can imagine. I was thinking the momentum. I was thinking when you say that every day you shake something. Well, it's good to shake like the horse that shakes the energy off. I believe at the end of the day, we'll have, this is my personal belief, that we would have collected a lot of things and we sort of create a momentum for the day. So when we go to bed, we sort of stop that momentum. And maybe I like to text talk of how the day has been without even thinking about tomorrow, because I don't want to carry today's energy into tomorrow, but I reflect on the day and then I release that day, mentally just release that day. And I imagine that these angels were taking away whatever I've released to go to recycle it into something positive. So,
oh, that's lovely. Oh, I like that. I might try that. That sounds like a lovely way of doing it. Yeah.
And you actually, with time, you actually feel like there is some energy being taken away. And obviously we know about angels that the more we connect with them, the more they do stuff for us. So I'm like, okay, if they're there to do something, I might as well give them something to do.
Yeah, lovely.
And although I must admit, there are days where you just crash and you forget to you want to do this, but you crash. And I noticed the difference that in the morning, the energy is different as opposed to when you actually released at the end of the day. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And then I think you've got to forgive yourself, haven't you? If you don't do it, don't beat yourself up about it.
There is meditation. I don't know. Is it hippo something? I love myself. I forgive myself. Hippo. That.
Oh.
You know the one I'm talking about. I love you. I forgive you. I Please forgive me. It's a self-forgiveness.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I know what I couldn't recite it, but I know of it. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's also another. If somebody's not able to verbalize anything or they're really tired, it's something someone can play in the background.
Yeah,
and it's sort of, I believe, it plays in the back of the mind. Any final words you'd like to leave our listeners today, David? I know you have a lot to do, and I appreciate you taking out the time.
No, one thing, just if nothing else, try the toe tapping.
Of course.
When you go to sleep, try the toe tapping. It's such a practical, useful activity to discharge energy. If nothing else, try that.
Beautiful. I'm tempted to call this the toe tapping experience. Thank you so much, David. It's been lovely catching up with you, and I hope to see you around soon.
Oh, no, it's been really, I've really enjoyed every set. I did wonder what I might say, but I seem to be able to, I didn't have too much to say, but thank you for the opportunity.
No, you did. You said what was, you took it a different way, and I'm so glad that we did this.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure.
Beautiful.
Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of The Be Nice Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Store, Spotify for the latest show. Or visit www.sarahbenice.co.uk/podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. Be nice.